So Steve White, Trek Boy 89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, I started a Star Trek marathon, planned to start one just after the 59th anniversary of Star Trek, and I managed to do season 1 of Enterprise. I don't know why it took a week or two, but the bright side was I got to spend a bit more time with each episode rather than marathoning them in like one day, which I really theoretically could have done if I'd had a whole day to do it. And I just want to talk about it because it's so much better than I remember and so much more comfortable than I remember. I really enjoyed going back into this world of Enterprise and, onto the NX. There was a bit of apprehension when the show originally came out because they were doing a prequel and we'd all just been burned by episode 1, and some fans did have some issues, probably more than any of the other series. And unlike all the other series where those concerns pretty much ended as soon as the show aired, it did linger for a while, and the show probably wasn't as well received as it should have been. And then, of course, because UPN was failing and the show was cancelled, it had a little bit of a bad name for a while. And then people started to watch it and realised that it was really good. So it's nice to remind yourself of that every now and again. Of course, I watched the Blu-rays. The only problem with the Blu-rays is the special effects haven't been upgraded. The live action stuff has all been ported over from HD sources, but so it's a pity they didn't do that because some of the images look a little pixelated or a little soft. But so that's an overview of the series itself. Those are the only real issues, and that's not with the show itself, but with the release of it, where they didn't pay to upgrade the special effects to HD because they were done for TV back in 2000 to 2005, when 480 was standard and 720 was HD. 1080 became HD during the production, and that's when they did. I think the 4th season was done with HD cameras in 1080, but they still didn't upscale the effects. Some of them they did. Some of the important shots they made time for, but a lot of the other shots were done at 720 or unfortunately 480 for some of them. And it does show a little bit. So that's more of a critique of the DVD and the release. But the actual episodes, let's talk about them. Now, the first episode, Broken Bow, I always have some issues with it because some of it, they go back to Archer's childhood and they show him and his dad, and that part of it is a little meh. But the rest of the episode itself is actually pretty good. The launch of the Enterprise, their first sort of foray into space, dealing with Klingons, going to a mining colony settlement, and having to deal with just different races, and there are a few little cliche moments, cringe moments where the humans are reacting human, and I'm like, I'd like to think they would have done some preparation and put some thought into who we're going to encounter and how we should react to them. The idea that Trip was just sort of backwards was a little harsh on his character, but so there's a couple of those moments. But if I talk on this level, I'm going to take forever to get through these episodes. But yeah, first episode, they have a Klingon crash on Earth. They have to return him, and they use it as an excuse basically to finally launch the spaceship, basically, because the Vulcans have been holding them back because they didn't think they were ready, in part because of prejudice. Now, it all goes fairly well, and the Klingons returned, and they just don't go home. They just decide, we're just going to explore space, we're here, you're not going to take us back now. Now, the first real episode is called Fight or Flight. Now, this starts off with a very exciting scene between Hoshi and a worm. I'm not joking. And it's a little clumsy with its metaphor, but overall, she learns to adapt like the worm does, because they take it from a planet and it's not doing so well in the sick bay, so they end up transplanting it to a planet at the end of the episode. It sort of bookends the episode, of course. And basically what happens is they encounter a spaceship which has a bunch of aliens who are being harvested for some of their fluids, and they leave them initially because they don't want to get caught up in whatever that is. But eventually Archer doesn't feel right, they go back and they end up alerting some other people from that race to the people that actually did this to their people and leave them to fight it out, basically. So it's a decent episode. Strange New World is a lot more fun. I really enjoyed Strange New World. Strange New World is where basically they go down to explore a strange new world, one of the first M-class planets they've encountered that hasn't been mapped out or investigated. They go down and they decide to stay over. What they don't realise is there's a bunch of pollen in the hills which gets blown down in a storm, which has hallucinogenic abilities. And they start seeing things, and it's pretty well done. The paranoia, the hysteria, it bodes pretty well. There's like ghost stories, and overall it's just a really great episode. And the next day when they're sort of going back to the shuttle pod, and there's some great scenes of the shuttle pod, like just out in the open, and just the way they used the real sort of location. I don't know, it just really works. Even though they've done that a million times on Star Trek, it just felt new. Now, Unexpected is pretty good as well. That's the one where Trip gets pregnant. He goes on to another spaceship to help them fix their engines, and he plays a game with a crew member where they put their hands in some holographic granules, and somehow that's enough to transport some DNA in order to get him pregnant. So they go off on their merry way, and then he finds he has a lump. And it's like, what is it's extra nipples. Why do I have extra nipples? I don't know, what's this? Oh, I think you might actually have an alien being growing inside of you, basically. So they have to go and find the people who, of course, have gotten themselves involved with some Klingons, so they have to humiliate themselves with Trip basically showing the baby bump, and explaining they have to get in contact with these people that the Klingons are sort of threatening, and they end up trading their holographic technology for the Klingons to basically let them go. Terra Nova had a lot of potential. It was basically the story of a lost colony and the mystery of that, and finally, discovering what the mystery was. The mystery is okay, but the actual reality of the life and what's happening to the people there is a bit meh. It's basically some people who've been exposed to radiation and they've forgotten who they are, and they have to be shown that they're humans and that the humans are not the enemy. And they do it through speaking this weird version of English that they've sort of changed over like 70 years, I think, that they've been alone and isolated, believing that humans destroyed them. So it's a bit messy. It's not the best. It starts off really well. The setup is really good, but yeah, now. Then we get to the Andorian incident, which is pretty great. They go down to the a Vulcan monastery, which I'm now forgetting the name of it. I'm surprised it's not actually written in. So I'm looking at the the DVD manual thing, and yeah, they go down to just see a monastery, and they find that the Andorians are doing one of their regular raids because they think there's a listening post there, and there is. And Archer helps to uncover it, expose it, and the Vulcans look like the a-holes they are. Now, breaking the ice, this is a good one too. They basically go down on a asteroid, and they start having problems because of the huge differences in temperature and the ice and everything. The shuttlecraft gets trapped, and they have to get assistance from a Vulcan, which they don't want to do. Archer does want to do, but they have to do to show that they are willing to ask for help and adapt and not be sort of arrogant and prideful and all these things. So they end up winning, of course. I'm going to go for all of these because why not? Civilization, that I'm not going to say I hate it. I don't hate any episodes of Enterprise. They're all good. This one, they do some sort of period fairy tale thing where Archer uncovers an alien that's doing some things on a planet which is causing radiation and hurting the native people. And they're all sort of 16th, 17th century sort of style, and that's all very Renaissance, and he gets to have a romance with some beautiful maiden-esque alien, and it's okay, but the next episode, Fortunate Son, is where we encounter a freighter, And there are a lot of these freighters that have been going for generations and doing long sort of hauls before, not before warp, but before like warp 5 engines and so forth. And they're becoming redundant, and they're feeling that, and they're resenting it because there's a whole culture of people that have grown up on these ships, and Mayweather was one of them. And of course, they have a running with a Nausicaan, and they want to do things their own way, and stuff that gets involved, and it's pretty tense. And the actors are all pretty good, and it's one of the better episodes. Cold Front. Oh, of course, that's right. This is the one with the where we get not introduced to, but we get a closer look at the temporal Cold War that we're introduced to in the first episode, which I forgot to mention. But this is the one where they kind of explore it more, and we have Daniels, this crew member who's from the future and been hanging around on Enterprise pretending to be a member of the crew. And they start to get an idea of things that are happening, and the Suliban, and that they're aware they're part of something, and they're an important part of the future, and people are trying to come back into the past and actually change the future by affecting Archer and his mission. Silent Enemy. Oh, this is the one where they never really work out who these aliens are, and the episode tends to get lost in a search for Reed's favorite food to try and get him something for his birthday. It's kind of clunky, but it kind of works. Dear Doctor, of course, is a really great episode where Dr. Phlox is dealing with some medical issues and some philosophical issues, and he does consider not giving the captain some information because he doesn't trust him to manage it. And Archer starts to realise that they're going to have to work out some sort of directive in regards to dealing with giving technology to alien species that are less evolved than them and so forth. Sleeping Dogs is okay. It's the crew goes down to a ship that's trapped in some sort of gas well or something, and of course they get trapped when they find a Klingon who runs off with their shuttle, and then they can't be rescued, and it's a whole sort of sinking ship, sinking into the atmosphere and being crushed, and sort of a Poseidon sort of adventure sort of episode. It's pretty good. Shadows of P'Jem. Now, P'Jem was the monastery that got them all into trouble. T'Pol is reassigned because they're not happy with how that went. They seem to be blaming Archer, like, well, you shouldn't have uncovered our secret listening post that we shouldn't have had there in the first place. So that doesn't go down well. Shuttlepod 1. Shuttlepod 1 gets a lot of credit for being a great episode. I like it, but it's basically just Trip and Reed stuck in a shuttle, and there's a problem where I don't really like the actor who played Reed. I met him, and he, in my opinion, very publicly made some vaguely homophobic jokes and stuff, and I just didn't really like him because I met them all in person almost. I haven't met Hershey and Archer, but I met all the rest, and I met some of them while they were actually in production on the show, which is great. Like to sort of be talking to them one point, and then like later that day or that week watching them on TV was pretty great. Because a lot of the other Star Trek actors, you meet them a long time after, and they don't quite look the same. They're not quite the same person, but these guys were like filming the show when I met them the first time. And also Dominic, I couldn't remember his name. He was playing a lot of scenes, some of the scenes for comedy, when Connor Trinity was playing at least one scene serious, and it was very well acted and dramatic and emotional. But Reed was, Dominic was playing it for comedy. He was undermining. The performances were not matching, and I don't understand how so many people go on about the acting and about the character work in that episode when there is this sort of unevenness to the actors. Now, Rogue Planet is one of the other episodes that's not great. Basically, they find this planet that's in darkness that is only living through volcanic sort of heat that comes up from the surface and keeps the planet from freezing. And they go down and they find some aliens that are being regularly hunted by other aliens who come down and just hunt the local changeling style shape-shifting aliens, because they're a challenge. And of course they don't like these aliens, these sentient aliens being hunted, and they do intervene because why not? Acquisition is one of my favourite episodes because we see Connor Trinier, who I thought was quite hot at the time, running around in his underwear for half the episode because a bunch of Ferengi gas everyone on the ship so they can loot the ship, and Trip just happened to be in the decon chamber and wasn't exposed to the gas. So when he comes out eventually, when he realizes that he's been in there too long, he finds the whole ship knocked out and these aliens are on the ship stealing stuff, and he has to run around trying to wake people up and stage a little rescue. And it's a good episode. The Ferengi are played for comedy while still not really being menacing, but at least there is an interesting portrayal. We've got Ethan Phillips is in the episode, and Jeffrey Combs, although I would have rather seen who played Quark? I'm forgetting his name. It would have been more interesting to see him back playing a Ferengi again, but instead they had Jeffrey Combs, who's too tall to play a Ferengi. He's a good actor, but he's too tall. Now Oasis is another okay episode. There's a few mid-episodes. I'm not going to pretend like there's not. Basically, they all go on vacation. The best part is that the boys go out to hook up and they end up being robbed by a couple of male aliens who appear to be women, and they get left in a basement, basically, in their underwear with all their clothes and everything stolen. So they were so cocky and so annoying. It was just great to see them get some comeuppance. And Archer has an encounter with a race. Oh, just wait a minute. Oh, I have gotten confused. I'm sorry. Oasis is the episode. I was thinking of the planet where they go to Risa. I'm thinking, just wait, this is not in continuity. But yeah, Oasis is the episode where they go down to a planet and they find a ship that's been stranded there for a long time, and they eventually discover that all the aliens on the ship are actually holograms that were created by one man and his daughter, who were the only ones who survived. He let the crew die in order to save his daughter, and he's been living with the guilt, and to survive that guilt he recreated them all. And it's an interesting, creepy episode, particularly the first part of it when they're going around the ship and you're just seeing these ghosts sort of in the distance. You're not quite sure who's there, what's happening. It's quite a lot of good setups, a lot of spooky setups in Star Trek and Enterprise in particular. But then, of course, they all get scientific explanations because this is science fiction, not science fantasy like the new Star Trek shows. Now, Detained is the one that relates to the one I thought was Oasis for a second, and this is a really not a fun episode to watch. It's basically an episode where Archer and that get detained because they are associated with the Suliban, and they're Suliban who are being kept in concentration camps, not because they're part of the Cabal, but just because they're Suliban, and this race is at war with the Suliban. So it's very much like the detention camps in Japanese detention camps in America during the Japanese War. And the worst part about it is they had children in these sites, and at the time I was aware that Australia was the only place who had children in detention camps. So that was a bit of a slap at us, a bit of a slap in the face to us, because they were criticising several things, including past things like what happened with the Japanese and also what was happening now. So that was not fun for an Australian person to watch, well, informed one anyway. Vox Solar, a lot of people don't like this. I like it. It's one where an alien gets on board and basically grabs Trip and Archer and a couple of crew members and starts to sort of spin a sort of very slimy web and turn them all into, because it's a race of aliens that are all conjoined, and it sort of starts to absorb them. And aside from the fact that they went with white, and you can't watch it and not think of what. And I'm like, why didn't they use another colour other than white? There's too many easy jokes that undermine the actual drama and the actual good story. So I wish they just used a colour that was something else. Not green, not brown, not white. Just pick red or pink or something. But yeah, they went with white. But the best part of the episode, I think, is where they're actually in the mess hall watching a movie before things start to go wrong. And I'm like, oh, they watch movies on the ship. It was great. Now, Fallen Hero is one where one of T'Pol's heroes comes on board, and she's been accused of murder or some sort of crime, and she's actually just being sort of snuck out of this place she's been investigating so that she can get away. And of course, the people she's investigating show up, and there's a fight, and Archer has to trust her as a Vulcan. She has to trust him, and he ends up saving her. And it's a great character. She's not your ordinary Vulcan, and it's really well played. Fallen Hero, I just talked about that. Desert Crossing, not the best one. Yeah, God. Archer and that go down to play some sort of like desert polo with this guy who's clearly a narcissist and all about himself and ingratiating himself to other people, and it's so obvious they shouldn't go down with this guy, but they go down, and of course he's a terrorist, and he tries to get them to take his side because of course he has a side and everything, and they end up getting left alone in the desert and have to survive. And it's like, I hate the desert, I hate things dry, I don't like to sweat, I'm not enjoying watching this. It's that basic. They get rescued, the end. Now, 2 Days and 2 Nights was the one I was talking about where they go to Risa, and this is the second last episode, so we're nearly there. I'm at 21 minutes, but I don't know. If anyone else cares what I think about this, they're probably still listening. But they go down for Risa, and that's where boys get in trouble, and Archer encounters someone from... It's all about him, because when they escaped the detention centre, they freed a whole bunch of the Suliban who were innocent, basically. And then someone basically, I don't want to ruin it, but one of the people he encounters is only there because he's there and wants to find out what he knows about Suliban, because he believes he's involved with them, and it wasn't sort of as simple as, they just saw an injustice and freed them. Now, Shockwave Part 1 and Part 2 I have just watched, although Part 2 is the first episode of Season 2. But basically they are going down to a planet, and they have to shut off their exhaust because it could ignite the atmosphere, and it does anyway, and they get blamed for thousands of people in a colony being destroyed, and Earth recalls them, the Vulcans condemn them, and what it turns out to have been is a situation set up by the Suliban. They basically came in on a cloaked ship and detonated this charge in the atmosphere right below the shuttle, so the Federation will get the blame. But they, of course, realise that they're innocent, they prove that they're innocent, and the Vulcans still want them to be recalled. But we have the famous Gazelle speech, which I'm not going to repeat. And then T'Pol actually stands up and says, you guys are being hypocrites, you're being unfair, the humans deserve a right to actually go out into space and explore and grow and everything. And it's a good speech, it's a good episode, and the ending is wonderful, because so many moments between these characters are wonderful. I've really missed great Star Trek characters, because all I've been watching for the last couple of years have been Discovery and the first couple of seasons of Picard, and a lot of these characters are just horrible characters. They're just not... You don't want to go into space with these people. But these guys, you do. Now, aside from Reed, who I don't particularly like, who isn't particularly easy to get close to, and he's played by an actor I don't like, all the other characters are great. And there's a great little moment, which I just watched at the end of the second episode of Part 2, where all this involves time travel, and T'Pol doesn't believe in it because the Vulcan Science Directorate have deemed it, impossible or something, or... and she says, I still don't believe in time travel. And he's like, the hell you don't, as he's like walking out the door. It's really good. It's after a year, these characters have become a family. They've gotten to know each other. They trust each other. They've saved each other, and they believe now in this overall mission that they have. And it's all about exploring space. And that's the best part about this series: the energy, the attitude, the freshness, the newness. We're going out to space. We're seeing this for the first time. We're the first humans to do this, and it just was really wonderful. And it just really made you want to go out on a starship. Because one of the problems with the later Star Trek shows is it's very ho-hum. We've been here before. We're not exploring new space. We're just sort of, watching over our territory and, sort of running into individual aliens. But it's not like as fresh and new and raw and scary and exciting as doing it for the first time. And that was sort of the whole point of doing this series, because you end up meeting people like, Silic. But yeah, I'm at 25 minutes, so I'm going to stop. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of season 1 of Enterprise. I love the show. I watched it week to week. I loved every week of it. And yeah, if you haven't seen it, watch it.